Hey guys, thank you for joining us today as we look at this last part of Paul's teaching on the Christmas story. So join us. So again, as we talked about earlier in the week, Paul is writing to a bunch of Gentile believers, and he says this: "But in the fullness of the time, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, that he might redeem those born under the law, that we might become or might receive the adoption as sons." Man, that we might receive, those who are born under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons. I wonder, what do you think it might have been like for those people who are, probably gathered around in a pretty rough-hewn room someplace as this letter is being read to them and they hear those words, receive the adoption as sons. What do you think might have been their spiritual, their emotional response the first time, right? The first time. I mean, think about it. A lot of times we hear Bible so much. That's one of the things I love about traveling is I get to be places where people hear something for the first time, and I'm reminded that a lot of times I've been a believer now for 40 years. A lot of times I don't have that excitement that I should have if I think about the deep truth of what God is sharing with me. So let's look at this last part of the story. God sent forth his Son, born of a woman. We talked about that a little bit. Born under the law, that he might redeem those under the law. See, do you see do you see an importance there, that Christ be born under the law so that he could redeem those under the law? I wonder, what do you see there? And again, this is one of those things I really don't know, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Feel free to drop them in the comments section under the video here. Came to those born under the law that he came as one born under the law, that he might redeem those who are under the law. Wow. Now, it's easy for us to say, well, it's for those people, and there's some room there to see that. But in this story, it says that we might receive the adoption as sons. I wonder, what might that little word "we" there, how might that change your understanding of this passage? So who do you think Paul is referencing? I mean, do you think that includes us? Yeah, it's. I talked about this story with some folks and went, yeah, those redeemed under the law. And just in my daily quiet time the other day, I was reading and it said that the law was up until John the Baptist. But what do you see here? I mean, is there some aspect of being born under the law for those that Paul was writing to? Yeah, again, this is one of those things I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm not sure that I am 100% in one place or the other. But let's look at that last part of this story, that we might receive the adoption as sons. Now, I can see for the ladies, it would be really easy to read this and go, oh, there we go. Oh, gender, gender unfairness. But let's look at the time this was written. Who received the inheritance? Who were the people that really mattered the most as far as the law and those kind of things went? It was the guys, right? And and yet here it doesn't. I mean, do you think he's writing just to the guys, or do you think this goes across the board? But this adoption, ladies, being adopted as a son, I mean, what might that include? I mean, could it include all the rights of inheritance that normally go to the males of the family? Wow. So I wonder, how inclusive do you see this adoption through Christ being? Yeah. I mean, what might that teach us about God as far as his view on gender and gender inclusiveness here? And now again, don't run too far with one little thing in Scripture. I'm just talking about included in the kingdom, included in the blessings of the kingdom, included in the blessings of being family and adoption. It's one thing to be born into a family. We see all the time. This is going to be posted on Facebook. Most of you will see it on Facebook. Very few people actually watch it on the YouTube page. But you see all the time that you can't choose your family, and yet when it comes to adoption, your family chooses you. What might we learn about God's heart from the fact that not only is he choosing those who are under the law, but he paid the redemption price himself. Might that tell us anything about the love that God has for those who are being invited into his family? Huh. Wow. I wonder, we didn't talk about this, so I'm going outside my STS training here a little bit, but being adopted into the family of God. I mean, are there times today we take that for granted? Are there times today that we might even look at that like a burden instead of a blessing? I wonder what appreciating being redeemed and received as adopted sons and daughters, I wonder what that appreciation might look like in our lives today. Can you think of ways that you or maybe somebody else, somebody you know, has showed that appreciation for God's adopting them into the family? I'd love to see some of those things in the comments section. We are going to be continuing our study of Christmas stories here for this next little bit. Starting next week, we're going to be going into some of the more traditional type stories, going into Luke, the birth of Christ, and some of those things. We're going to talk about the shepherds and the angels. So looking forward to that. But I would also ask if you have suggestions or comments, please let us know. But also, if you would subscribe to the channel, that would be appreciated. And maybe even if you could invite some other folks. I'm trying to keep these down to about 10 minutes or so, whenever possible. But again, I pray that this has been a blessing for you. I know it is for me. There's times I have to struggle to get it done, but overall, boy, it has just been a thrill to get to dig into the Word with you guys, and we're trying to learn some different ways of doing this in kind of a more one-sided format. So again, please don't be afraid to share your comments with us so that we might find ways to improve. But until the next time, keep telling those Bible stories.